This is something that we talked about previously, mostly because the possibility of it being a motivating factor was so funny and so characteristic that we kind of couldn't, like, ignore it. I didn't think that he would come out and actually admit it, though. Elon Musk reveals Twitter takeover was driven by the, quote, woke mind virus that infected his trans daughter. Tech tycoon. So, to remind you all, this is the trans daughter who has said that she wants nothing to do with him because he's a miserable piece of shit, and whose existence he has sort of alternated between ignoring and decrying, mostly using her as an example of what happens when liberal academia gets its hands on the youth. Tech Tycoon uses interview to open up about his battle for social media giant, as well as his concerns at, quote, full communist family member. I saw a Twitter post which was something to the effect of, I am mortified that my daughter hates me because I am rich. I will prove her wrong by spending $40 billion to buy her the platform she uses to talk with her friends and fill it with Nazis. I will defeat her arguments with this phenomenal rebuttal. Jenna, which the article helpfully dead names, thank you British media, right off the bat, transitioned at age 16. When she cut Elon out of her life entirely, he knew he had a fight on his hands. A battle which would eventually culminate in the world's richest man buying Twitter for $44 billion. The Tesla owner believed his child had been radically transformed by the $50,000 a year liberal school she attended in California. Quote, she went beyond socialism to being a full communist and thinking anyone rich is evil. Now, first of all, it's worth noting that Elon is an idiot, so his assessment of her positions is worthless. I don't know why she's not the one giving the interview. I think it's far more likely that he's just a monstrous person to be around, and she stopped liking him as soon as she left the house, and he interpreted that as, like, woke academia destroying her. I think that being the child of Elon Musk would be in itself a pretty strong radicalizing force. I've talked before about how, like, you know how a huge amount of the anti-trans advocacy in this country has been about trying to stoke the fears of paranoid conservative parents who don't think they have enough control over their children? What are your children seeing in schools? What are your children looking at when they go online? Are they looking at trans people? Are they learning about critical race theory? You know, I think that, like, the anxiety a lot of conservative parents have concerned with them wanting to own their children, like in a complete and total way, and then being dismayed when they realize their children are their own people. That's what fuels a lot of them when it comes to moving towards, like, fascist thinking. Because when you get into that mindset, the idea that children are property, they're your personal possessions, and that any changes they go through that you don't personally approve of are indicative of some kind of social taint or pollution that you have to stop, it leads really, really easily into the fascist thinking. Anyway, a lot of this is just talking about Elon Musk broadly, not just in terms of his daughter. I think the daughter thing is the most interesting bit of new information, because a lot of this is just broadly indicative of Elon being an incompetent leader. Oh no, Dino Smash, we'll get to that, don't you worry. But I think that the daughter thing is incredibly telling, you know? Not just because it's indicative of how, like, poorly he handles his family relationships here or whatever, but I think it's such a strong indicator that, first of all, like, Elon does not raise his kids. There is zero chance that Elon, this shiftless, fascist sympathizing, insecure piece of shit loser, actually raises his children. Of course not. It would be absurd to believe that. Like, no chance. So the idea of him being so upset by this, you know, it's worse than normal, because I can understand a parent being kind of dismayed at the idea of their child going through changes they don't like if they've taken the time to raise that kid and that kid did not end up the way the parent wanted them to. I don't think it's right, but I understand the feeling there. But for Elon, somebody who's presumably had very little involvement in the lives of his children, to behave this way, you know, I really just think it's like a possession thing. It's property rights to them. Every parent is a fascist in crisis. You need to do what I say or you could die. I don't think it's not like an innate parent thing. I think a lot of it is just the way it's sold, especially in this country. And a lot of it ties into Christianity too. Whenever I hear about people who tell me about their traumatic upbringing of being treated like an object by their parents, they are almost always Christian parents. Because in the, like, Christian dominion hegemonic mindset, there's a really strong tendency towards the male being the patriarch of the household, and like there being a very rigid order to like who controls who, because the relationship from God to the child is that of like the parent to the child. Like there's like like it is godly for the dad to control all things, for the mom to direct the children, for the dad to direct the mom. So like the whole dynamic ends up sort of producing I guess a relationship that the parents interpret as like total ownership, that ends up fueling a lot of this. And that's the insecurity the right plays on, right? The idea that their kids are going to get stolen from them, basically. It's literally like the boomer or like Gen X variant of, why won't my grandchildren call me at the retirement home? It must be because of liberalism. Vosh, this is an aspect of all the Abrahamic religions? Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, to an extent. Christians are just the most populous and powerful in this country, by far. Oh, yeah, I saw this. I saw this guy. A lot of anti-homeschool discourse lately, which reminds me, I have 100% full right and authority over my children. They have no autonomy until the age of 18, and even then daughters remain under my authority until they marry and go under another man's authority. I know that sounds insane to see typed out, but I'm pretty sure this is literally the mindset of a lot of conservative Christian parents. Like, I know that they don't normally just go ahead and say it, because a lot of people who have bad ideas don't fully understand the extent to which their own ideas are bad, and they don't type it out. They can't like elaborate. But I think that's what a lot of them think. Yeah. I mean, that's like the old value when it comes to children. Wait, so that person wasn't joking? No, they defended their shit for a while before locking. This is just a screenshot. I saw this morning. I saw it when I opened my phone. Because they were getting ratioed. Vosh, this is not only the mindset of a lot of conservative Christian parents, but this is the mindset, even subconsciously, of a lot of parents in my own personal experience. Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to kind of like do a Marxism and relate this back to critical theory for a second. But I think a lot of this is not a deliberate, but an almost inevitable product of social alienation as well. The American dream is one in which adults have no social life. You make enough money in your stifling white collar job that you can go live in the suburbs and never make any friends. You live a mile apart from everyone else. You're separated by giant swaths of asphalt and lawn that you never like use but maintain anyway. So the adults have no friends, no social life, and they have a lot of unfulfilled desires because they're deeply unhappy people. And what they do then is they project all those desires onto the children that they have, that they're expected to have. And because they have no social life, they get over fastidiously involved in their child's life to the point of trying to control them entirely. That's not to say that like this is a one-to-one thing. Obviously, people can live in like robust multi-generational households with a lot of social opportunities and still control their kids. I'm not saying quite like that. But there's something very particular about the stiff-collared conservative right religious upbringing that kind of fits that, doesn't it? Like there's a very particular set of circumstances that all lock in together that produce this outcome. And I think a lot of this, it's all kind of comorbid to an extent. Americans are uniquely bad when it comes to this, I feel. I'm pretty sure that if we went to like France or whatever and we asked, polling all parents, do you feel like your children owe you or like some polling data, some questions you would ask to determine the extent to which they think they own their kids? I feel like in America it'd be a lot worse. I feel like. I don't know. I admit that I'm guessing here, but that is a feeling that I have. Yes. French parents are a bit strict, not the best example. No, but I'm not talking about strictness, because strictness is different. I don't think parents can be strict, and that can be good or bad depending on the exact circumstances. But I'm talking beyond strictness. I'm talking about like ownership, like dominion over children. Yeah, it's a different thing. I don't know. But if you went to Eastern Europe, Asia, etc., they do pretty bad too. It's just conservatism, is it not? No, it's, again, first of all, social alienation is plenty present in Eastern Europe and Asia. And for two, it is largely a conservative thing, I feel. But I don't think it's quite the same. Again, I'm kind of riffing here, but I think the people who are doing these comparisons don't understand what I mean when I'm talking about this kind of parent. I'm not talking about being strict or mean or domineering even. There's another set of things here. Whatever the case is, clearly it's a multivariate problem, because Elon Musk doesn't exactly fit the bill of a like suburban Christian conservative family. So, whatever. It's a tendency that a lot of parents seem to exhibit, and it's the main thing that conservatives are so intent on harping on about. This is, of course, the reason why I think of the children is such a like standard and stereotypical like a way of summarizing the conservative framing of arguments, where every single thing has to be done in this like phony pretend, like we're looking out for young people kind of BS. Oh, while we're on Elon, because we might as well do this in together, because this is more of a continuation of a previous bit of information that we saw. But while we're on the subject, we recently saw a big report that came out about the extent to which Elon Musk has sway within the government, because he's relied upon as a sole provider of a lot of like essential business resources and the whole Starlink thing. And yeah, Elon Musk secretly ordered SpaceX engineers to switch off the Starlink satellite communications network near the coast of occupied Crimea in order to thwart a Ukrainian surprise attack on Russia's naval fleet, according to a report. So not only does Elon have more direct oversight and knowledge of the Ukrainian battle lines than anyone, including Ukraine itself, because he has direct access to the, little pings on the Starlink network, but he actually just like straight up foiled an attack in order to protect Russian naval assets. Of course, if we were actually at war with Russia, which a lot of people say we are, even though we're not, this would be treason and he would be in jail right now. But we are not at war with Russia. Ukraine is at war with Russia, so it is not treason. This is, if anything, an indication of how irresponsible it is to rely on a single oligarch's personal resources and businesses to conduct war efforts, especially when that oligarch has such close ties with Russia. Guess who suggested it to him? If Ian Miles Chung ended up thwarting that Ukrainian secret offensive, that will have been the most he's ever contributed to international affairs. Might be a good idea to take Starlink offline for the terminals used at the front line. Could encourage them to reconsider their position on advancing towards Crimea and leading the world further to the brink of total war. It's actually possible. We know Elon will just like hear ideas online and then do them. It's genuinely possible that could actually be it, Is it weird to think of Elon as a Russian-aligned faction in this war? No, he is. Like 100%. He has straight up met with Putin and like disseminated Russian propaganda and defended Russian propaganda and explicitly like speaks with and defends and promotes people on Twitter who ally with Russia. It's not even remotely subtle. I think Elon isn't going to be able to enter Ukraine after that without being arrested for being a national security with that record. Oh, Ukraine, after all of this, he probably will not be able to set foot in Ukraine. I don't know if like Zelensky or the Ukrainian government broadly is going to try to like bury the hatchet or whatever and not continue antagonism, but they would certainly be well within their rights to try to arrest him for this. Why doesn't the US military just seize Starlink? It's such a major piece of infrastructure. Well, I can answer that like seriously as to why they don't, because that wouldn't be legal. In terms of like broader institutionalist, or in terms of like the broader picture here, if the question is, do we think that we should nationalize these essential bits of military infrastructure rather than relying on oligarchs? The answer is yes. Can you imagine if there was an order of military hardware from like Raytheon that was meant to be sent to Ukraine, and because the CEO of Raytheon liked Russia and didn't like Ukraine, they like made the products intentionally defective so that when they arrived they would like blow up and Ukrainians would die or whatever? Like, can you imagine? Elon is such a remarkable individual. He hits new lows so often, so consistently. Can anyone in the USA threaten Musk in any way? Come on. That's not really how it works. Elon is not in breach of contract, as I understand, and even if he was, it would be a breach of contract with Ukraine, not with the United States. He is a security risk, as an accountant, but as being a security risk doesn't mean you get arrested. Could Ukraine sue Elon in an American court? Probably not, no. In fact, almost definitely not. It should mean you lose your DoD contracts. That I agree. The DoD signed a contract with Elon after this to prevent it from happening again. Yeah. The idea that like, and this was in the previous article, that big expose that was done, the idea that the State Department and the Defense Department had like ongoing like not on paper relations with Elon Musk, where they were just like expecting him to do things based on words he said, is insane. He is the least trustworthy billionaire in the entire world. Like, genuinely, he might be. Yeah, if he does it again, Archwave. But at the time, he wasn't acting in violation of contract. What's the state of lawsuits and investigations he's facing? I'm sure being a billionaire, there are many of both happening, but nothing significant. Wasn't Einstein put in a list because he liked some form of social democracy? Many people have been added as security risks nationally. It's not like a new or specific thing. I'm sure some people consider him to be one as well. Anyway, yeah, he's bad, is my argument.